Welcome to the Rowdy Wrestling Podcast with Tony Stabile.
There's a rowdy crowd today.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Rowdy Wrestling Podcast, very first edition of 2017. I hope all of you got to celebrate with loved ones and family and not drunk with your tongue in a shoe. That didn't happen to me, I swear to God. I swear it didn't happen this year. So much has gone on. I'm a sucker for the holidays, I have to admit it, but now that we're swinging into January and I'm just not enjoying the cold weather, but I shouldn't complain. I lived here in Quebec my whole life, so on and so forth, blah, blah, blah. But it is a new year. A lot of people take the time to reevaluate their lives, reevaluate things that they're doing, create New Year's resolutions and whatnot. I'm a fan of doing that constantly throughout life, so, you know, I do believe in the New Year's resolutions, I do believe in all that, but I don't believe in only doing those this time of year. What I am looking forward to, though, in 2017, strictly podcast-wise, you know, having more of you hop on board, thanking and supporting all of you who've been supporting me since the beginning. 2017, a lot of great things down the line, so many fun experiences that are going to be coming for the podcast and for your listening pleasure. Things I don't want to talk about too much right now, but I am being a douchey, spoilery kind of guy and saying something's coming, something big, something fun. We're well on the road to Wrestlemania. Thankfully, there won't be any roadblocks this year in February, I hope to God. But we do have a lot of things to look forward to. I mean, we've got the Royal Rumble in just a couple of weeks, and with both Brock Lesnar and Goldberg in the Rumble, but those guys are going to be fighting. I mean, that's going to be huge. It's really rare you know about two guys that are going to be in the Rumble and will most certainly be eliminated so powerfully ahead of time. I mean, I'm very excited to see how they're going to be doing that. You also have The Undertaker, who's rumored to show, to be showing up at the Royal Rumble, because right now we're up there. Is it going to be Undertaker versus AJ Styles, Undertaker versus John Cena at Mania? How do you get around this? Do you make him win? Do you make one of those guys win? Do they lose? Does AJ lose his title? A bunch of really fun things that I'm very interested in seeing as, the card for Mania is starting to pick up, and the dirt sheets out there and the Meltzers and the Alvarezes are all saying, okay, there's a couple of guaranteed matches out there. You got Roman versus Strowman. You got Triple H versus Seth Rollins, Brock versus Goldberg. I mean, that does sound like a really awesome WrestleMania. And I'm realizing I'm already gushing about this, and I haven't taken the time to properly do the podcast intro, so I'm not even going to cut this out, because that's a lot of fun, and we're going to talk a lot more about it in the weeks coming, but I'm really, really excited right now, believe it or not, on the road to WrestleMania, far more than I was last year, so that is a good thing. Anyways, I'm Tony Stabile. I'm a podcaster, I'm a manager, I'm a social media guru, if I want to even say that. I know I'm not whatsoever, but first and foremost, I'm a pro wrestling fan, as you could have clearly heard from that long-winded intro with a lot of fun in it. And this is a podcast for the people, by the people, for wrestling, pro wrestlers, and anybody that just loves the craft. And in 2017, if this is your first episode, thank you. Go back and listen to all the other stuff over at rowdywrestling.net or on iTunes. And if you've been around for the long haul, hey, thanks. Thanks for the support. Thanks for doing it all. Thanks for sending in emails occasionally, rowdywrestling@gmail.com. I don't throw that email out there too often. That's going to be a change. That's a resolution I have for this year. I'm actually going to take the time, and whenever I do get some sort of feedback, emails, tweets, or whatnot, we're going to start doing that a little bit more on the podcast. We're going to change it up, and we're going to have a lot more fan interaction, a lot more listener interaction. That's why I'm not even going to call you guys fans, because you're not. We're a community. We're out here to have some fun, so it's going to be community interaction is what we're going to be doing. And, I got to I got to highlight guys who've been supporting the podcast for a very long time now, and they'll continue to do so. They're my good brothers over at heelsandfaces.com. They're your one-stop shop to look fly as a pro wrestling fan. Pick up the Rowdy Wrestling Podcast t-shirt, exclusively designed and made and sold and delivered by them. You can also use a fun little promo code that whether you buy my shirt or you don't, but you buy something from them, which I suggest you do. The promo code is ROWDY, all in capital letters. That'll save you 10% on your total purchase. That's right. You can buy anything from their shop that they sell and you'll get 10% off. They got stickers, they got gym bags, they got t-shirts, they have sweatpants. They even got some yoga pants come, if you know what I'm saying. So go check those guys out. And another way to support the podcast, if you don't have a couple of dollars to throw at Heels and Faces so they throw awesome clothes back at you, is by liking on Facebook, following on Twitter, subscribing on YouTube and iTunes, leaving a comment and a rating. I mean, there's no better way to help the podcast than to do that because it pushes us up in the algorithm. And, it shows up in more of those trending pages or to listen to, pages and whatnot. So go check it out. Go do that. Leave us some stuff. And once more, if you just want to yell at me and Twitter at Rowdy Wrestling isn't your thing because 140 characters just isn't long enough, hit me up on the Gmail, rowdywrestling@gmail.com. You can go anywhere. If you think you'd even like to be highlighted somehow on the show, go ahead, let me know. Write to me in all caps. That's how we do it. Today's podcast is going to be a review. No guests this week as we're sliding into things. Originally, I was even supposed to take the week off, but damn it, ITV had to have their World of Sport wrestling reboot air on New Year's Eve. I checked it out. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about that right after we pay some bills. So we're going to head to a quick commercial break. We also got the indie calendar. And once we come back from that, we're going to talk World of Sport wrestling on ITV over there across the pond in jolly old England. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. But let's head to the commercial break, and please forgive me while that plays. What's up, everybody? This is your indie calendar update for the beginning of January. Happy New Year, everybody. All things start off, big things I should say, start off on January the 14th in Quebec City, Quebec. NSPW Kickoff 2017. Bell time is at 8 p.m. One of the main events that night, huge blockbuster going on. Montreal Elite, Frankie the Mobster, Benjamin Tull, Handsome JF, and Brad Alexis versus Team Quebec, Alex Price, Marcus Burke, and the Dead End. The next night here, downtown Montreal at Fufun Electric Battle War 41. The show proper starts at 8 p.m. as well. The Battle War Championship will be on the line as the newly crowned champion Big Mike Gibson will defend versus Speedball Mike Bailey. Then heading on over to Saturday, the 21st of January, we have NCW Power Play over in St. Therese. Huge event going on as Commissioner Joey Soprano has his position on the line as his team, Soprano approved, Chacal, Striker Stephanie Sinclair, and Gorgeous Mike go up against NCW, Bishop, Vigilante, and Mary Lee Rose. That's at 120 Boulevard du Séminaire in St. Therese. Bell time is at 7:30 p.m. Also on the 21st of January, over in Ottawa, C4 Capital City Championship Combat presents Walk Fire With Me. That's in Ottawa, Ontario. All tickets are $20. Doors open at 7, and bell time is at 7:30. See you then.
Before the game, after the action, the only place you should be is MontrealHockeyTalk.com. 1 hour before every Habs game, our pregame show delivers the deets. Who's hot? Who's cold? Complete coverage with Stephen Hindle and Steve Farnham. Then 5 minutes after every game, tune right back in as Nick Burdacco and Coach K break it all down, play by play and hit by hit. The postgame show wraps up your night. MontrealHockeyTalk.com.
This is Uncle Dirty, and you're listening to the Rowdy Wrestling Podcast.
Thanks, Uncle Dirty. You're right. You're listening to the Rowdy Wrestling Podcast with me, Tony Stabile, as we kick off the year looking at something new, something different, something fresh in the world of pro wrestling. A reboot, because we're all about pop culture these days. And ITV, a television channel, I believe much like the USA Network in good old jolly old England in the UK, used to have this television show called World of Sport, which would showcase pro wrestling out of Great Britain on British television. And they had so many huge names back in the day, which I have to say we were reminded of about 1 million times on this show. And what they did was they decided to put out a pilot out there where they went and they filmed an entire pro wrestling show as if it were the start of a weekly thing that they were going to do. And I think it'd been in the can for a couple of months at this point. Finally, they decided December the 31st, in really a dead time to put it out there and test the waters, see if they could do something that's pretty legit, something that would be an alternative to WWE and even some of the indie companies that are really taking off over across the pond. And I gotta say it right off the bat, what they did is very intelligent. One, they recognized where they were coming from, so as much as it was a deterrent at certain points, it was good that they kept referencing where they came from, what the original World of Sport wrestling was all about, some of the great wrestlers they had there, and that felt good. It gave us a lineage. It let us know as listeners, as first-time listeners, in my case, I'm a little too young, I think it stopped well before I was born, of the lineage, of where they were coming from. So that's good, that's fine, I really enjoyed that. First off, you open up the show with JR and whoever they had with him, Shane something, I have no idea, I can't remember his name, but he also does announcing for What Culture Pro Wrestling. So he and JR, you know what, they've had a good rapport, they've worked with together before, and that was really cool. And what they did was they opened up these guys standing in front of the ring, old school Raw style, holding mics in their hands, standing up and talking to the crowd. Now, those savvy fans would realize WWE has kind of been doing something like that with Monday Night Raw, where they go to the announcers who aren't sitting at their desk, but they're facing away from their desk and away from the ring, all the way up on the ramp, talking about what's going on. Now, what I don't like is how often they do it on Raw, where they like pretty much turn their back to what's going on, and they do it like intros and outros from the from commercials and into commercials, as opposed to this time around, they just started it. And they gave a slight little rundown, slight little preview of what's going on tonight. And then we go right into what I found really weird, but I understand if it's a one-off, if it would end up being a one-off night. What they ended up doing was the World of Sport Championship match to start off the night. Now, wisely enough, thankfully enough, JR goes on to mention that, hey, there was a championship committee that was put together for this. They chose these two wrestlers as who they wanted to represent the company, so therefore they're going to have the match to choose who the champion is. That being said, Grado, of all effing people, the bastard love child of as they kept referring to him like he's like him, but Dusty Rhodes and Colt Cabana. So Grado is that guy versus Dave Mastiff, who, you know what, I think would have been a pretty good choice, regardless of whose opponent was. These guys had a match to start off the night. Grado's incredibly over there because he's a big comedy guy, and I have nothing against it. You can even make those guys serious if you want to, but I can't take Grado seriously. So having him in the world title match, in the very first match of the very first episode of your show, if we're thinking this isn't just a one-off, made it feel kind of weird. And then the tomfuckery that we got, where Dave Mastiff ended up getting the win via pinfall, that was something. And so they throw to commercial, kind of TNA style, which we're gonna get back to in my annoyance in a little bit. They throw to a commercial. When they come back, you have you have I don't know, their version of Dasha Fuentes or Charlie Caruso interviewing the general manager of World of Sport. I forgot the guy's name, not even worth it. I'm not going to look it up. But anyways, she starts asking him WWE-style questions, and the guy goes, oh, it's going to be a great night. We have a lot planning for you. Grado comes in. He's really pissed off. He's like, did you see what happened there? Did you see blah, 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 blah? Dan Mastiff as well. And then, so what happens here is, I believe that's at the point, because you went back to this guy a few times. But I believe at that point, they're like, yeah, no, we kind of saw that. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a bunch of qualifying matches tonight that go into a battle royal, and the winner of the battle royal will go on to face Dave Mastiff again, because that was some shenanigans there. So what you're setting up here is you're telling me your pro wrestling show, everything you had planned, you're throwing out the window, and I'm choosing to believe you had stuff to plan. Everything you had planned, you're throwing out the window, and you're restarting from scratch, going, all right, we're going to do a bunch of things, and that'll lead to the main event again tonight. Now, that irks me to no end. Now, if they had told me, okay, we have this match, we have this match, well, now all of the winners from these matches, as we've already decided we're going to have before this happened, we're going to go ahead and put those into the number one contender battle royal. Okay, I can kind of live with that. But then you're also telling me at this point that you have so few wrestlers that you pull the old indie trick, where a bunch of your guys got flat tires, flu epidemic is going around, and then at the end you only have like 8 guys on your entire show. And you still put on 9 matches, if you know what I mean. So that felt a little weird, which brought us into Kenny Williams versus Sam Bailey versus CJ Banks versus Delicious Danny in a ladder match where they had to climb up a ladder and grab a briefcase that was funnily painted in the exact same red as the Universal title and kind of looked like somebody had just made a briefcase out of, Fruit by the Foot or Fruit Roll-Up? Yeah, essentially the same thing as the Universal title. And the winner would go on to be to go into the Battle Royal. Now Kenny Williams won. It was a fun cruiserweight style match. Ladder spots, nothing really memorable at this point because you're also trying to keep it safe and it's a one-off sort of thing. Then they do the same thing again. Guy wins to the back, and that TNA style to the back got me so fucking mad, and I'm gonna start swearing like crazy at that. Because you're constantly to the back, to the back, to the back. Oh, here's another video package. Like you're trying to cram a 3-hour show into, I believe after commercials is 90 minutes or with commercials, whatever it was. You crammed far too much show into what you actually needed here. And it was a lot of those backstage skits, so much Grado. They built the show around Grado. And once again, he's a cool character, he's lovable, but I can't see this guy as your champion. And especially if you're calling yourself Sport. Meaning World of Sport, and how they treated that shit seriously back in the day, it's not looking too good for you. Anyways, we come back from another, I believe it's a commercial timeout, as JR kept calling it. You had Alexis Rose versus Viper. They called it a singles match for the first women's match ever in World of Sport history. Viper won versus via pinfall, as I believe there were no submissions in this entire night. Anyways, Viper. Very voluptuous lady, and I'm not banging on her. I'm not bashing her whatsoever. But I'd like to see more women like that, even in WWE, because it really goes to show. Like, here's a girl who's kind of wearing that one-piece swimsuit, and it's not the kind of girl. How do I put it this way? I'm gonna say it, but it's not gonna be mean, and it's not mean-spirited whatsoever, because a very lovely face. A very lovely lady. She's fat. And she was wearing clothes that in WWE, they would put a tarp over her, and then a second tarp, and then whatever the hell Nia Jax wears. So more power to them, just not caring, being like, hey, this is what you normally wrestle in. Go ahead, wrestle in that. Instead, you have Nia Jax, who's wearing the full body suit with the shoulder pads and lines, trying to make her seem thinner. No, this girl's like, I don't care. I'm big. I'll kick your ass. And that's what she did. And I thought that was fun. That was awesome. So having Viper win here, and it was a good women's match in my mind. Big lady, little lady spots all over the place as Viper just crushed Alexis Rose. All for it. Next up, after a couple more, to the back shenanigans, you had the Coffee Brothers. If, you understand what's going on here with WCPW versus Ashton Smith and Rampage Brown. Once more, another WCPW. I can't even say their name anymore. And a tag team match where the winning team would have both members thrown into that number one contender battle royal. Coffee Brothers go over. Typical tag team match. That's really all it was. Then we got, in my mind, the best match of the night. El Ligero versus Zach Gibson. Once more, winner going into the number one contender battle royal. Ligero won. If you guys know anything about El Ligero, go check out his WCPW stuff. Go check him out on YouTube. This dude is awesome. Flip-a-doodles everywhere. Just some fantastic spots. It's just a shame that this was such an ADD-esque show, or TNADD-esque show, that this match kind of gets lost in the shuffle. I mean, if they were just to put this match out there on YouTube, I would have ranked it much higher, only because I enjoyed it, and what once more made me, like, I had to go back and legitimately, this is the only match I watched twice, is because by the end of the show, I was like, there had to have been something better in this, and then I remembered El Ligero, so when I watched it. So after their match, I believe this is where they had it, where the commissioner, whatever his face is, Mr. Ty, goes, yeah, we're going to have the number one contender battle royal. You guys are all here. Hey, El Ligero, good job on you. Or I think it was the lady or whatever. They go, by the way, the number one contender battle royal, we also have a super secret participant. Cool. So we had Grado versus Kenny Williams versus Mark and Joe Coffey versus Shai Samuels versus Joey Moss. Sean Samuels, excuse me. Versus El Ligero. Now, they're all in the ring. The bell rings. People are throwing each other out left and right. It's going to a thing. And where's the secret guest competitor? And then, all of a sudden, I believe you're like Final Four or something. Out comes Davey Boy Smith Jr. Yeah. Harry. Davey Boy Smith's son from WWE. This guy shows up. He's looking good. But what the fuck? Why the fuck didn't he start the match with everybody else? Like, in my mind, that's just dumb. Anyways, you get down to the Final Four where it's him versus the Kofi brothers. Or Coffey, I should say. Excuse me. Coffey brothers. And Grado. And, by then, the writing should be on the wall. Two things are either going to happen. Smith turns heel, which very doubtful. He came out to the, English national anthem. And just kills Grado and he wins. Or Grado wins. Lo and behold, Coffey brothers end up tossing Smith out. Grado tosses both of the Coffey brothers out and wins, which then leads directly into To the Back, which then leads to, and we're doing entrances again. Dave Mastiff versus Grado have another match where they repeated a lot of the spots from the beginning of the night. Eventually, Grado getting the better of Dave Mastiff, who had run and shoulder posted himself, which JR kept referring to. Hit his head, hit his head, hit his head, by God. And Grado won. And he is now the World of Sport champion. You had two men win the same title on the same night on the very first show. Now, as a show as a whole, this if I would have gone to see this, locally, and I'm not bashing indie wrestling because indie wrestling is my bread and butter and I love that stuff. But if you're presenting this on television, that's the way I like to explain things. An indie show for DVD and a show that's on television should be built three completely different ways with the base of pro wrestling good versus evil. Let's put that aside. Pro wrestling at its very base, at its primal, is going to be the same across all three platforms. However, when you're doing something for television, yes, you got to get your live crowd into it. You got to do stuff for the live crowd. But what's most importantly is you got to do something for the people at home. Because I don't care how awesome and how dancey all the little kids in the crowd are. If you're doing something that makes no sense to me or that calls itself sport, World of Sport, and you give me sports entertainment, that's where I kind of have a little problem with it. And then when your presentation is a 3-hour show that gets crammed, late night talk show interview style, a 20-minute interview is crammed down to 3.5. It kind of annoys me because you are victim to constantly to the back, to commercial, to the back, to commercial, and nobody has time to really feel the emotion. I mean, Grado at the beginning of the night, when he got fucked out of the championship, I didn't feel bad for the dude. I was like, okay, this is Grado. This is Grado. Okay, cool. So for the sympathy for the babyface wasn't there for me. Wasn't there for me whatsoever. So I get really upset when that happens. And then throughout the night, you come back and he's whined. You're the whiny babyface now. And, it's like, you're throwing so much at me. Now, putting that aside, I have to give it some compliments because not just to be impartial, but because there are compliments to be had. One, Ligero versus Gibson. Awesome. Very good match. The overall look, the aesthetic behind it, I loved. Now, if you go back to the WCPW episodes, my big thing is I always love the production value of these guys because they come from YouTube, What Culture, and I don't know how much money they have behind them, but they're able to make a tiny little bingo hall style amphitheater or arena look great and look like a fun wrestling venue. What they don't have, though, is the best technical audio and video equipment, which is weird because they're YouTube. But anyways, there's a difference between filming in a 4x4 box versus a big amphitheater. Quite the different world. So what we have here is a perfection in my mind. A World of Sport, ITV, which it's a TV company. It's I guess they're cable over there or whatever it is. They have their equipment, which is top of the line. So what you have here is what the Impact Zone used to look like in 2006, 2007, 2008. And it was just gorgeous, minus the really crappy lasers and bad pyro, which did kind of show up at the very end, but we'll put that one under the carpet. But what you did have here was beautiful. It was bright. It was well lit in the areas that needed to be well lit. Only towards the back, the ends of the crowds where it went dark. So it kind of looked like it could go another 20, 30 feet, but not really. Probably only had one row of bleachers blacked out entirely. So I thought that was very nice. I love the positioning of JR and that Shane dude or whatever his name is. They were opposite of the entrance ramp, much like you have in WWE and in TNA and whatnot most of the time, except for Monday Night Raw nowadays, except their hard cam was flipped around. So the guys were coming in from the right as opposed to the left on television. And it just looked very nice because you didn't have fans directly behind JR. You had another plasma screen. You had all the logos and the lights. And I don't know why. It just felt bigger, it felt more important, and I honestly did appreciate that. I like the entrance stage, I like the music. It's very rare, and TNA always had that problem, and I'm not bashing TNA specifically, but ROH has that problem. Wild Culture's also had that problem. It's the music in arena music never comes across really well. And on this show, let me tell you, every one of the guys' intros came across perfectly. Like I would have never guessed Davey Boy Smith's entrance music what it was if it were on any other sort of wrestling event besides WWE or this. Like I would have just been like, okay, cool, the guy has, I don't know, piano? I don't know. I have no idea. In this circumstance, that was very good. That was very refreshing. So at the end, if there's anything I can say here is go into the show if you have a chance to go watch it. There's many non-illegal ways of doing so. ITV is a pretty open TV station. I guess I want to get more eyes on it because I don't know how great the ratings were for it. But go get your eyes on this and treat it as a one-off. If you treat it simply straight off as a one-off night, and these are the only guys that they got, and this is going to be it, it's a decent night when you look at it that way. It's a decent show when you look at it that way. If you think of it as the beginning of a weekly serialized wrestling show like Monday Night Raw or even Lucha Underground, anything that has seasons, it's gonna be a bit more of a miss because you had too much of a closed gap. It felt like a reboot episode of TNA, like the one where RVD won the championship off of, I believe it was AJ Styles, where they're like, nope, we're going to take a hard right turn after like maybe 6 weeks of whatever we were doing over there. Doesn't matter. So within itself, you have so many little nuggets, so many eggs of fantastic that I can only hope you sit on, you incubate, you nurture, and those hatch into little chicklets of awesome and grow up to be raging roosters of death. That's what I'm hoping for. So ITV World of Sport Wrestling, the pilot episode, I thought if you're looking at it just in its own microcosm and if it doesn't get picked up, it's a decent night. If it's something that's going to be picked up and they're going to start filming within February and they're going to have like weeks and weeks and weeks of television, their episode number 2 better rectify a couple of these issues, aka Grado as their world champion. That being said, I want to know what you guys think. Again, hit me up at Rowdy Wrestling on the Twitter and Instagrams and everything there, rowdywrestling@gmail.com. I want to know what you guys think. We're going to talk about this over the weeks to come, days, weeks, months, years. All of this here on the Rowdy Wrestling Podcast. With that, I will be back next week with more pro wrestling, rowdy wrestling, anything wrestling goodness. Have a great one. That's about all the time we have for this week. If you want to hear the uncut, uncensored interview or any of our past episodes, head on over to rowdywrestling.net or our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe on Facebook, Twitter, and iTunes. Once more, I'm Tony Stabile. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with more Rowdy Wrestling. But for now, keep it locked to CJIM.